Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Center for Conscious Living. I am Spencer, and I am joined by Renee today to bring you our weekly wisdom in the form of our Conscious Conversation live stream. If you've been following along with us, you'll know that we've been doing for our fall series Essential Elements of Conscious Communication. And today we are focusing on Principle 3 Energy Pushing and Pulling as Control Dynamics. But before we get into that, just a few announcements. If you are new to us, thank you so much for joining. We love having you here. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and the number one way, the best support that we love is having you here present with us and engaging in our community that we're cultivating here. So thank you for being here. Leave us, we encourage you to leave a comment or like and or subscribe, follow on whatever social media platform. Do your respective thing there to make sure you stay up to date with our content and our posts. So thank you for doing that. As we are a 501c3, we also offer financial contributions. If you feel so inclined, you can check out the descriptions. There's a link there for how you can support us financially, and we thank you in advance for that. So yeah, we have part 3 of our series, and if you haven't, we also keep all these recordings up. So please go back if you haven't seen the first 2. They all stack together very nicely, so I'd highly recommend that. And we will be on for one more week, and then we're taking off for the weekend of Thanksgiving. So we will be on for the 20th, and then the 27th we will be enjoying time with our families and for the holidays and all that. So that would be a perfect time to go back and rewatch some episodes. With that being said, I'll hand it off to Renee to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Spencer. So if anyone, if you have trouble hearing us or anything like that, please let us know. Also, my kitty cat comes in and says hello once in a while, so sometimes I need to look away and take care of him. I just wanted to welcome everybody. And you know what I realized, Spencer, is that this is actually number 4 in our series. So that we were, I missed that too. This is number 4 in our series. So we actually have had 3 before this. So unless I'm miscounting, so we'll sort it out by the end of the series. So I wanted to talk about the topic just for a moment before we actually get into it. I want to make sure we all come into this with our hearts open, because this is not about trying to blame people. This is not about trying to say, condemn and criticize certain energy dynamics. And one of the reasons I use the word energy dynamic is we're not saying people who have these personality choices, who make choices to behave in certain ways, are participating in an energy dynamic. And we came into this, if you didn't see week 1, I really encourage you to go back to that. We're approaching all of this and how to have conscious communication to cultivate sacred energy dynamics. So if you didn't catch that the first week, that's very important. The entire purpose of this is not to say there's only one way to be and everything else is wrong. It's all about learning how to know within yourself, are you aligned with something sacred? We use a lot of phrases. You might say God force, you might say life force, you might say what we call a lot, you'll hear me say source, beloved source energy, the energy that is the consciousness of life. And we have that capability. We have consciousness. We are evolving it on the planet. I've referenced a couple of books during this series. One is Power versus Force, and another one is Seed of the Soul. And the reason I've referenced those books is because they really do a beautiful job. They're not new, they've been around a while, but they do a beautiful job of explaining how the energy dynamics is about humanity evolving its consciousness to higher states where we don't prey on each other for a sense of aliveness, a sense of well-being emotionally and mentally and even physically. We support one another. We share love and joy with and connection, but we don't maneuver, manipulate, and dominate. I mean, it still happens, obviously. That's what we're working on. But it's been evolving for a while now, and we don't want to go backward. We want to keep evolving forward. So that's why this is such an important topic. And this topic today, particularly, can be a little triggering. If you feel a little emotional charge as I talk about this, be gentle with yourself, and I invite you to stay steady. If you catch yourself zoning out, notice what triggered the zoning out. If you catch yourself feeling emotionally stirred a bit, like angry or fearful, notice what triggered that, and we can discuss it in the conversation part and help you process that. The next couple of weeks, we're actually going to go very deep into what's going on when we have emotional triggers and how to process it. Okay. So as Spencer said, let me bring us back to today's focus. As Spencer said, we are talking about energy pushing and pulling as control dynamics. And I'm going to read this. This is also in the program on the homepage if you would like to follow along. I put this up for us, give you a little outline. So the concept we're going to talk about today is the need to elicit certain behaviors from others is a control dynamic. And I'll go into that a little. That might raise it. I hope that raises some inquiry for you. And we're going to talk about that more. And then we're going to talk about two different types of the most common types of control dynamics. One is called, remember, these are all energy dynamics, okay? It's how we exchange energy with one another. One is called an energy vampire. And so my question there is, do you pull energy from others to feel good about yourself? Or do you let others drain you because you want them to feel good? So think about that energy vampire. Then the next one we're going to talk about today, we're just going to cover the two most fundamental, is the energy dynamic that I call a bully. It's known as a bully. And my question there is, do you push energy on others to prove yourself? Or do you allow others to be invasive and dominating with you because you feel overwhelmed? So you don't know how to manage that when they push. So as we get started, I invite you to please take a breath, first of all, because I know this is a big topic. This is deep. It goes deep. It can be very tender. So please take a deep breath and do that a lot. Keep breathing as we go today, because you'll notice there'll be moments when you're kind of like, ooh, not breathing. It's because something's being kind of stirred emotionally. You might mentally kind of switch off, So just try to stay in your heart, keep your energy field open to divine power and presence. To divine power and presence, okay? Now, I want you to please think about when you engage in conversation, any form of communication. And let's be clear, communication is way beyond words. It's, a lot of people say, well, yeah, there's body language. What underlies all of it is the energy that you're carrying. And that energy is determined by your consciousness. So if you have a consciousness of all life is sacred, then to the degree you live that out, you're in alignment with this core value you hold that has become the energy of your consciousness. And your consciousness then sets the energy in your field, in the space around you, emanating from you. And it's not just a physical, it's traversing through every form of communication. Think about how many times you have a thought about someone, and in that moment you hear from them, you get a text or a phone call. Your thought about them, your energy communicated with them. They may not even know it. Sometimes people definitely know it. A lot of us, we sense it very clearly. And everyone can. And none of this is to make anyone more special than anyone else. We all have sacred worth. On the planet, we have been in a process of awakening to our spiritual identity, our I am presence, our alignment with the divine. I love to think of it as your divine self. The reason is I don't like to use phrases that cause people to think of it as something outside of them, beyond them. It is beyond us, but it's also within us. So we are within source energy, and source energy is within us. It's like we're swimming in the ocean. So we're in the ocean, but then that water is also seeping into our skin. It's also, we're immersed in it. We're surrounded by it and immersed in it because we are made of it. It is that light being. The source energy is actually that field of light. We are made in that image, in that energy. And so we have the amazing, wonderful gift of sovereign choice. How do we use this energy? Do we ignore it and pretend that we're mere mortal, nothing more than that? We're just we just have the physical presence, which is a beautiful presence, our beautiful human beingness. Or do we embrace that we also have a spiritual beingness? And do we then recognize, as the authors of the 2 books I mentioned do a beautiful job of teaching, then do we choose to have mastery of our consciousness, our energy? And they're not the same, but they dance together. If we evolve our consciousness, we live in a higher energy frequency naturally. As we evolve our consciousness, our energy will be more and more consistently higher. It will be what's known as the dominant frequency we carry with us. And it will guide our intentions and our choices. We will make more clear intentions that are aligned with the core values we hold, such as sacred honor among all life, all people, all creatures, the planet, nature, all sentient beings, and of course, sacred self-love. It begins with that. And to the degree we have that as our core value, and we consciously evolve to hold that state of consciousness as our natural way of being in life, then we will behave that way more and more frequently, more and more consistently. It will become our natural way of being. And of course, I would say to most anybody listening, it probably is your most natural state of being. But then there are times when one of 2 things will happen. Either we will be trying to collaborate in some way, whether it's personal relationship, family, activity. We have the holidays coming up between now and the end of the year, many different holidays coming up. And so we have a lot of family interaction. We have a lot of social interaction too. So we're trying to collaborate with people who have not made this conscious, awakened choice to engage with one another with sacred energy dynamics. And so we will be interacting with people who they may not be, I'm not saying they're bad people at all. They may be lovely people, but they just haven't awakened to that. Or we're engaging with people who they've sort of awakened to it, but they really don't have the skill set. They haven't learned. It's not like it's taught in school, is it? It's just not. Hopefully that will change in the future. So that's one thing that might happen. The other thing that might happen is you're feeling vulnerable for some reason. You're feeling maybe your health is challenged. Maybe you're having a financial stressful situation. Maybe you've had something within a relationship that's caused you to feel a little, insecure or just off your game, right? You're not as aligned and grounded as you would like to be and as you might normally be. And that's when it's really hard then to deal with people who are not consciously choosing sacred energy dynamics, because now you're in a low frequency when you come into their energy field, the environment that you might be participating in with them, collaborating on a project at work or in the community, doing something with your family, or just personally in your home, a relationship or something you're doing, just a simple conversation. And all of a sudden, something happens and the other person says something that triggers you, or you say something without meaning to, either one of you perhaps triggers the other person. What happens then? That's when the energy vampire might come out, or the bully dynamic might start to play out. So let's talk about that. So the first concept, let's go over the concept. The need to elicit certain behaviors from others is a control dynamic. So how do you, when you need somebody's help, you either need to clarify something with them, or you need them to assist you. Like you need someone, you don't feel well, you need someone to go to the grocery store and get you something, or to the pharmacy, or you're doing something around the house and you need an extra set of hands. You something to move that requires two people, not one. How do you do that? Now, I know that sounds such a simple question. You might say, well, that's kind of like, duh, no brainer, right? You ask. Perhaps you do, and perhaps you don't. Perhaps you just don't understand why somebody doesn't know to do it without you asking, and then you sort of feel resentful. Also, if you do ask, do you ask in a straightforward manner? In other words, do you come into the communication very calm, very grounded? So you're not pulling on their energy. You're not like sort of maneuvering the question, or not other people who don't ever ask an outright question. They just try to maneuver someone to do something, and they never clearly ask a question. They don't say, I need some help to move this piece of furniture. Would you be willing to help me? I'm not feeling well. I need some things from the store. Would you mind to do that for me? Basic, simple things like that, right? So when that comes up, focus on you, not someone else. Okay. We're not here to change other people. See, that's part of the control dynamic, eliciting certain behaviors from other people. When you want something to be different, do you go within and shift your consciousness and then set a clear intention, make conscious choices to create the change in your environment you want to see? Or do you try to get other people to change so that your environment feels better for you? If you're doing the latter, you're practicing either an energy vampire dynamic or a bully dynamic. So let's go through the two of those. All right. So let's say you want someone to help you move a piece of furniture. You're just going to rearrange the living room, let's say. And whether it's somebody that lives with you, or somebody, a neighbor, a friend, whomever it is, family member, somebody at work, hey, can you come home after work and help me do this? It could be a project at work. You're wanting somebody to help you with it, and it requires something that is somebody else's, maybe it's their actual responsibility, and you need it done by a certain date, let's say. So let's use two dynamics. One is simple and personal, and one is more business oriented. It could also be, a community project. Excuse me. It could also be, if you're not somebody who's working, it could be a community project. You need somebody else to help do their part, right? And now think about that. Does that make you feel vulnerable? Get into your heart there. You need somebody else to behave a certain way to get the result you desire. How do you go about that? Does that trigger a sense of anxiety? Like, oh, I need them to do this. Well, I have to say it just the right way so I don't upset them, because I really need them to say yes. Right? Or, so you see what I mean? Like, if you're sick and you need someone to go to the store for you, the human of you can feel vulnerable in that moment, right? And it can produce some anxiety. What if the person is not willing? Or what if they're willing, but they won't go till later, right? I remember one time I was getting sick and I needed a prescription picked up. And the person who said they would get it for me, it was hours and hours and hours. And finally they were like, oh, I thought you meant this evening. I'm like really, really sick. I need it now, you know? And so it's see how it can be vulnerable feeling, right? So a clear communication, you would come into it and you would process your feelings first. And all of this you can learn to do very, very quickly. So it's not like an all day process. It's like just a moment. You could literally a minute or less. You know, you can just notice, as we talked about last week, start with self inquiry. Are you aligned? Are you feeling calm? Are you feeling grounded? Are you feeling needy, like you're going to pull their energy? Or are you feeling like you've got to make them do it? So you're going to be pushing energy on them. You're going to be trying to dominate their energy. So let's cover the energy vampire first. If you come into the conversation and you're asking this person, you want them to do something, but you don't come out very clearly and say, I need your help. Would you be willing to do this for me? And tell them specifically. And then allow them to say yes or no without judgment, blame, shame, anger, fear, crying, yelling, all the things that happen in conversations like that. Are you able to go into a conversation? Would you please, I need some help. Would you do this for me? And then wait for their answer. It might be a yes and it might be a no. What happens when you do that? Just think about a recent conversation like that. Think about one that went well and think about one that didn't go well. One where the person was it was no problem. They said, sure, I'd be glad to. And it all went smoothly. And then think about something whenever the last time it happened, when it didn't go smoothly. Somebody, you didn't ask clearly, or you didn't allow the no if they said no, or they didn't handle it the way you wanted. And then just make self-inquiry. Were you clear in how you ask? And did you have an attachment to, they must say yes and they must do it a certain way in a certain time? And we're not talking about a dire situation where somebody's bleeding and they need to get to, the emergency room. We're talking about something where you really don't have to have an extreme amount of control over it. You'd like it done a certain way, but you don't have to. It's not life or death. It's more an attachment to having it the way you want it, which is most things, really. Most things, right? Non-emergency, most things. So just open your heart and feel into that. Which one is true for you? Do you have a tendency to ask directly, or do you have a tendency to sort of try to maneuver them, make suggestions? Like that's a beautiful thing that it would be an energy vampire dynamic. You suggest to somebody that they do something differently, either do something they're not doing or do something differently from how they're doing it. You don't come out and say, I would really appreciate if you would do this in a different way. Can we please discuss that? Here's what I'd like, how I'd like it to be different. Here's why it matters to me. And how do you feel about it? And then literally leave it open and converse. That's collaboration. You have an idea, you bring it, and then you allow the other person to give input. And then you come to a collaborative decision how to proceed. Do you do that? Or do you not really come out and ask? You sort of maneuver, right? And you then feel resentful if they don't pick up on the clues. You left cute, you didn't come out directly, but you feel like somehow they should have picked up on it. And they may have picked up on it and they may have said, well, they didn't ask, so I'm just going to let it go because I'm avoiding the conflict. People can feel that coming. People feel you pulling on their energy. And once people understand about energy, they don't want to engage like that. So let's say that, so we're talking about it on both sides. So do you do that, or do you have someone to do that to you? And how do you handle it when that happens? So there's a couple ways you can handle it. If it's a small thing, it depends on the relationship. A relationship that's an ongoing, you want to go ahead and converse about it and clear it up. If it's like, somebody in the grocery store, you may never see them again. You can just take a breath and walk away and bless them and, move on. But don't just leave all those things hanging, because they get so messy. And then everybody's got little eggshells they're trying to not step on, right? That is a terrible feeling in a relationship. It's like all of these unspoken little resentments or overly careful behavior patterns to not set somebody off, right? To not hurt their feelings or make them angry. So if that's happening in a relationship, then you take the lead. You be the person who says, I choose a sacred energy dynamic in all my relationships. Of course, it depends on the other person if they were willing to do that with you, but that you won't know if you don't ask, if you don't make an attempt. Okay. And before we finish, we'll come back and circle how to do that. Okay. Now let's talk about the bully dynamic. So let's take another breath. Okay. Everybody take a breath. We're not calling you a bully or anyone else. We're not suggesting you do. We're not calling you or anyone else an energy vampire. We're not suggesting you do that. We're saying there is a dynamic that humans engage in. It's been around forever, where we either try to manipulate somebody to get what we want, pull their energy. We either come in as a victim, or we just do this manipulation to coerce a behavior rather than openly, authentically, with sacred honor for everyone involved, make a request and accept that the person has the right to say yes or no. Now, the other end of that, on the opposite side of that, would be the bully dynamic. And that's where you just sort of come in with guns blazing. You just determine that, by golly, this person's going to do what you want, or else, you're just going to make them, you have this, and you may not even let yourself go there and admit it to yourself, but you're really trying to make somebody be who you want them to be. The bully isn't always guns blazing. The bully is sometimes big smile on their face. But they are pushing energy. They are trying to push you to do what they want you to do, with a big smile or with anger. Either one is still a bully. Why is it a bully? Because they're pushing you. They're invading your energy field, and they're invading your right to choose how you behave and what matters to you. It's in very invasive energy. That's why it's like they want to dominate everybody around them to get the environment that they want, because that's what they need to feel safe and secure. They think that's how to get it. So that's what they do. It's the same dynamic on just more of it's like the flip side of the same coin with the vampire. In both cases, these could be people you really love and people who love you, who don't know how to get energy source from the source, the divine presence, divine power. They don't know how to do that, which is a lot of humanity. And so instead, they're trying to prey on humans for energy. I need to feel safe. Every human being wants to feel safe and secure, and every human being wants to feel loved and cared about. And so if we know how to do that as a spiritual being, we go to the power source and we fill up with light, with love, with the energy that is the consciousness of well-being. And then we carry that with us into communications and interactions with other people. We don't need to pull it from them, and we don't need to push them to behave certain ways for us to live that way because we carry it with us. We cultivate it within ourselves and we carry it with us. That then we can participate in sacred energy dynamics, which is about love and joy and creation, creating things that feel good and are good for everyone involved in the project and the situation at home or at work or in the community. So think about the last time you were in a situation with someone where either you were trying to force them to do something they didn't want to do, or at least they were not eager to do, or they were trying to do that with you. And ask yourself, did they do it with a big smile and pretend that they're doing it because they love you so much, right? Or did they do it with kind of an anger and a forcefulness and a, you better, if you really, if you care about me, you'll do this, or you better do this. If you know it's good for you, you better do this. If you don't, I'm going to be really angry and I'm going to treat you badly. Whether they say those words, that's the vibe you're picking up on. Which one? And when's the last time you did that with somebody? Maybe not that strong even. Be honest with yourself. When is the last time you caught yourself starting down that path? And be kind toward yourself and be kind toward the other person. At the same time, I'm not saying to tolerate abuse at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm certainly not saying to be abusive and then just shrug it off and go, oh, well, I couldn't help it. You can help it. We can all help it. We can't control what other people will do, but we can absolutely cultivate mastery of our choices. Okay, so take a breath. We're going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to have our meditation period and hold a higher consciousness energy around this for you, for all of us. So when this happens, what is the wiser, more evolved choice? So when you notice that you're starting to do that, either one, it's a non-sacred energy dynamic. It could be the pulling energy, which is the vampire, trying to suck energy from somebody else to get what you need to feel safe and secure or to feel loved and cared about. Or you're in the bully dynamic and you're pushing really hard to get them to do something different the way you want it to, so that something in your environment will feel better for you to feel safe and secure, loved and cared about. Either one, you deserve to feel loved and cared about, and you deserve to feel safe and secure, that human element that we all choose and desire. You are worthy of it, and so is the other person. But this is not the way to go about it. This is a toxic way to go about it. This is human beings preying on each other, as opposed to human beings allowing their spiritual being to lead the way and fulfilling up first with divine energy, and then supporting one another and participating in life together in ways that are joyful and loving and caring from a high consciousness, not from this pushing and pulling, this coercing and dominating. Now think about that. What if you could have every relationship in your life like that? What if you could be that way in every relationship in your life? Okay. I'm not saying what if you could convince everyone else in your life to start behaving that way. I'm saying, what if you made a choice right now, a commitment to yourself, that you will behave with sacred energy dynamics? That when you see the vampire energy dynamics starting, where you're pulling on somebody else for energy, you will stop, you will forgive yourself, you will align with divine, fill up with the true source of energy, and then go again with more conscious and clear intentions. Same thing with the bully. When you see yourself starting to try to push somebody, whether it's overtly or with a big smile, pretending now you're being loving, it's all for their good, when you catch yourself doing that, you will stop, you will forgive yourself, you will open to the divine presence and power, fill up with that energy, and then go again with a higher consciousness. Are you willing to make that commitment to yourself? And when you do that, if you're engaging with somebody else who's behaving that way towards you, then there are two choices. You stay present because now you're in a high consciousness. You might choose to stay present and have a conversation with them. You might choose not to invest your energy and presence in that, at least not in that moment. And you might choose to just walk away. You might circle back to it later, or you might just let it go. I mean, a stranger in the grocery store arguing over who was supposed to be in line first, something like that. There's silly things. We don't need to engage in energy like that. We can just walk away, right? Yeah. And next week, we're going to talk about what's going on when those things trigger us to where we start behaving in ways that we later go, why did I do that? What happened? Who took over? Something invaded my body and took over, right? We'll talk about that. But the first step is to make the commitment to choose sacred energy dynamics, to be really honest with yourself. When you catch yourself starting down one of those paths, or you see that you're letting other people treat you that way, you need to be aware and make a commitment. You deserve and you want to participate in sacred energy dynamics. So stop participating in it with others who do that to you also. You can walk away, or you can have the conversation about, this doesn't feel good. Let's try this. Let's try this differently. We'll go into more in the next 2 weeks on that, how to have those conversations better. Okay. And we'll do it now. We'll do a little process. So let's take a deep breath. And I think Spencer's got some music for us today. As always, thank you, Spencer. So let's just take a deep breath. Exhale with sound. All through your body. Really let all that out. I'm sure that stirred up some things. It has to. Things that you've done, things that other people have done, and you wish you hadn't allowed and you didn't know what to do. Take another deep breath and just let it all out. And now get into your heart very, very calmly and gently. Another very soft, deep breath. And a very slow, thorough, gentle exhale. And just be present. Be present. Open your energy to divine power and presence. Still your mind. Tell your beautiful brain to just be quiet for a moment. This is a sensory experience. This is energy alignment with divine power and presence for you. This is just about you and for you. It will benefit everything in your life, but you don't come into it in a triangulation entangled with everyone else's energy. You only focus on your connection to divine presence and power. Just go directly to that. Open to it. Allow it. Receive it. Let yourself be one with that. Take a breath, please. You have the right to be loved and cared for in your human life. You are loved and cared for by the divine, and that is the love and caring you can bring into every relationship, every energy dynamic. It is there, and this is how you reach it. Open to divine presence and power. Take a breath. Breathe in the love of the divine for you. Exhale. Allow the caring and support of the divine for you in every moment, in every way. Allow it to be. And now, Another need that we have in the human realm. So we want to feel safe and secure. And the way to access that is the same. You are a spiritual being who has the potential to be at one with divine presence and power. So open your energy to that. Take a breath, breathe it in. I am safe. I am secure. Exhale. I will be divinely guided in every moment. To feel safe and secure in every relationship, every communication, every energy dynamic. You first connect to that worthiness of divine support, divine love, and the infinite intelligence and wisdom that is always with you to guide you. And then you bring it into the energy dynamic, the relationship, the situation. Practice this every day. Start your day this way. And then end your day this way before you fall asleep. It will become so natural that when anything triggers you, this will be your go-to response. You will open to divine presence and power. You will allow it. You will receive it. It will ground you. You will know that you are loved and supported. And you will feel safe and secure as you are guided how to proceed in order to be safe and secure in the physical realm. Because, dear one, you are that loved. You are that cared for. You are that abundantly and beautifully and bountifully supported and guided with infinite intelligence, wisdom beyond your human capacity. Each of us is. It is the truth of us. It is the most amazing divine gift. It is the nature of our spiritual being. And we want to let that divine self lead our beautiful human self. Take another breath, please. And exhale. Ooh. You might want to take a few more breaths as you're coming back into focus here as we begin our conversation section of today's live stream. Another breath. I'm going to talk for a minute while everybody comes back. As Spencer said, we will be back again next week. Before we close today, I will give you the topic for next week. We're going to start working on those emotional triggers and understanding them better, and then learning how to release them out of our life so we don't keep carrying that around and having to deal with it all the time. I also want to say thank you for your presence. We're going to begin the conversation. If you'd like to participate, you can make a comment or ask a question either on YouTube or Facebook, and Spencer monitors that for us. Thank you for that, Spencer. And he will make sure that we see it and that we address it for you. If you would like to do that, we do ask that you remember this is a public forum. Sometimes we have gatherings that are a group, but they're private, so they're not public. And in a public forum, we do ask that you be respectful, not to use anyone's name. And also we want to make sure you know that if you want to have a conversation that you feel is not appropriate in a public forum, you can go to the website and you can see two different ways to reach out to me. You can send me an email with an inquiry and I will answer you, or you can schedule a phone consultation with me and we can set that up and have about 15 minutes or so, 20 maybe, and review the situation in your life that you might need some help with. We're glad to do that. So I know Spencer has our website in our description, scfcl.org. And there's a couple of places there that shows you how to reach out to us. Okay, so Before we begin, I'm going to cover the concept and the two questions, and then we will begin our conversation. Okay, so the concept today, it's principle number 4, energy pushing, pulling as control dynamic. The concept is the need to elicit certain behaviors from others is a control dynamic, as opposed to just, openly asking for support in some way and not being triggered when somebody says yes or no. And then one question has to do with the dynamic that's known as an energy vampire. Do you pull energy from others to feel good about yourself, or do you let others drain you because you want them to feel good? So you let them use your energy instead of learning how to do it on their own. And then the second question has to do with the bully dynamic. Do you push energy on others to prove yourself, or do you allow others to be invasive and dominating with you because you feel overwhelmed and you don't know how to manage it? So you just let them invade you and try to, force you to behave the way they want you to. All right. And so is there anything about one of those questions or topics that you would like help to better understand, or would you like some guidance in a specific situation, how to handle it better? Come on back. Come here. My little boy is wanting up here. Okay. So, Spencer, do we have any comments, or do you want to jump in?
I don't see. I'll double check again and see if anything's come in. I don't see any comments or any questions there. Just some good mornings. So good morning to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Um, I so the question that jumped to my mind was like regarding the energy vampire. Um, I feel like I usually let other people drain me because I want them to feel good. I also feel like I've been doing a lot of work on that, and it doesn't happen as often. But there are times in kind of the either excitement of new opportunities, be it business or relationship or whatnot, that it's easy to revert and easy to lose sight of that worth. And then what I end up finding happens is like something that's new and exciting will start, and then it kind of like starts to lose its luster, and then you realize, geez, I'm in this situation again where I'm either giving up all my energy to somebody else or something else, and um they might be inadvertently doing it, and then having to grapple with that. It's kind of an emotional thing to get over that, being like, wow, I thought this was what it was something that was really good, but is actually really bad. Now I got to let go of it.
Yes. Okay. There's several points there that are really tender and important,
Hmm.
right? So thank you for being so open and authentic in your question, right? And also, I want to say what to everybody listening, what Spencer just described is very, very common. It I didn't say normal. It's been accepted as normal in the human world, but it doesn't have to be our normal, right? But it is common, so it's not like there's something wrong if you feel that. So please don't feel, if you share something with us, that we're going to think there's something wrong with you because you don't have this all perfected. We're all learning it more and more consistently, higher and higher energy levels. So there was a couple of things that I think are important to touch on. One is that the idea that you think you sort of have this mastered, and then you engage at a new level. You're in a new space, new people, new situations, and our consciousness is hopefully always evolving. And so you're coming in with a new consciousness, and then it's like, wow, this happened again. How did this happen again? I thought I was past this. So that's one of the things I heard. And then I think it was sort of like you feel really vulnerable, then how to deal with it kind of in the moment. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and I guess kind of being aware, like going into those situations, to not get caught up in it, like not
Play along.
immediately, yeah, not immediately like jump both feed into the news. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to balance that excitement of like, this is great and I want to be a part of this, with well, this is also very new, and the people in the situation is so new, you don't necessarily know their true authentic selves, or what's going on, or what's in their world and all that stuff. And it's, you know, um there's a chance that it'll end.
Yes. Okay. So let's let's talk about it in a, I'd like to make it a tiny bit more specific, but
Yeah.
without giving anything away. So let's say it's a friend. It could be a work friend, it could be a social friend, it could be a neighbor friend, you know what I mean? Let's just call it a friend. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a new friend. Um and it could be a community project you're working on. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter the detail of what you're doing. It's what's important is there's a new connection, and you're wanting it to be sacred, because you're wanting all your connections with people to be energy dynamics, to be sacred, right? You can only control. So the first thing to remember is you only can have mastery of that for yourself. It will definitely impact others. It will influence them. If they would like to learn that and they see you doing it, they will be inspired to do the same, right? It's not an overt impact. It's just a natural emanation that will happen. So you want to stay in touch with, where are you in that? And I do think it's wise, as you're saying, as you learn about them. We talked about this last week too. Be aware when there is a control dynamic that seems to be happening. And then ask yourself, is this person doing this consciously? Do they know they're doing it and they think that's okay? In their mind, that's how they want to. Maybe it truly is how they want to be. There are people who say, I've known people in my lifetime, and I think we all have, where they think it's perfectly okay to force somebody to do something they don't want to do. And we're not talking about enforcing the law. We're not talking about extremes. We're talking about just everyday interaction, right? They think it's okay. There are people who they will kind of maneuver you into doing something, right? And they know they do it, and they do it well. Because they know they do it, they've perfected it. So there are people who do that knowingly, consciously. It's not high consciousness, but it is an aware choice that they are making. And then there are people who, and this is many people, I would say, who, and we want to have compassion, that they don't know another way to do it. They are feeling vulnerable. Like, if, especially new friendships, you're getting to know each other, it can feel vulnerable. You're revealing yourself. Is this person going to treat this very vulnerable information you're sharing with honor or not? Are they going to go immediately and tell all their friends this thing you shared that was private? Are they going to put something on social media? Are you going to catch them, at work or whatever, or in a social setting, and they're laughing about it when you thought they were honoring something vulnerable you shared, right? There's so many things that can happen like that. So what's important is to not need them to respond a certain way. Absolutely have a preference. We all want somebody to treat us with sacred honor, but you can't need it, because you can't control it. You can choose it. You can also create it by your energy field, but you can't force them to be different. You can't make them be different. You can't change that they might not be treat things sacredly, but you can have awareness. And I would say, instead of intellectually analyzing it, use your sensory ability to understand the energy that they're emanating. and it feels authentic and it feels sacred, or it doesn't. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. And I kind of had, I guess a little thought because in the specific situations that I am thinking about, um, it seems, it seems to me the way you described it, like if that person is kind of being the role of the energy vampire and kind of sucking my energy, then that leads me to kind of be the bully energy and like try to push myself to prove that, hey, I'm worth the time, I'm worth the time, I'm worth your whatever.
Right.
And that connection and that interaction and energy. So it's like it's kind of like yeah, it's just kind of one of those situations where it just really like feeds on each other and really can spiral.
Well, it does. The bully most definitely feeds on a person who will allow themselves to be vampired, right?
Right.
And then the vampire can happen when somebody's trying to deal with a bully and doesn't have a healthy way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It can start, like you said, a very toxic of very non-sacred energy dynamics, very toxic even energy dynamics. So if you feel that happening, I would say it depends on the setting, of course, but you want to be clear and grounded before you have a conversation about it. If you can, obviously, if it's, everyone listening, we're not saying stay in something toxic and try to work it out in that moment. Remove yourself if it's abusive or becoming abusive, and then you could have the conversation later if you choose to, if it's a relationship you want to sustain or a relationship you need to sustain, and because of it's a part of a group that you're involved in. So you definitely want to get clear yourself, because if you come in vulnerable, you're not grounded, you don't have a sense of sacred honor about yourself, you're probably going to be triggered by what they do and say. And you may even start it off in a way that will trigger them. Not because you did anything wrong. People are triggered because they carry wounds, not because of what other people are doing and saying. So you don't want to come in wounded. You want to come in, you want to process, clear. And in the next 2 weeks, we're going to go through how to do all of that. But you want to get really clear why, the important question is, okay, why am I inviting these dynamics in? Part of that is it's very prevalent in the world. So part of that is not your fault, right? The sooner you have the awareness that there's that dynamic playing out, congratulate yourself. In other words, the fact that is playing out doesn't mean you did something wrong, that you're not as self-mastered as you'd like to be, right? Because it's in the world. And to the degree we get to choose who we spend our time with, we can not choose people who do that. But there's times when we're in groups where we do have to learn to interact with people who choose those dynamics, right? And then we just do the best we can with it. And as we learn how to do it without letting them manipulate us or dominate us, then we just hold our own. We just hold our space. They may never change, but we learned how to hold our space and minimize how much energy we use in dealing with people like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That does. Yeah, I'm just thinking of all the different times that started to happen. And again, it's like you let the guard down because you're like, this is so exciting, this is so much fun, and trying to be cautious without being like overly cautious or pessimistic, and when entering those situations is really key.
Yes, it is. I'm so glad you circled back to that. The letting your guard down is so that when you say that you're wanting it to work out, so you're trying not to have your guard up. So that is intellectually analyzing versus coming through your heart and sensing the energy. So think of an example, and everybody listening, please do this too. When you've been present with somebody who you don't know, at least you don't know well, and you sense their energy and it feels really clear and clean and authentic. Not because you know them, not because they've proven to you that that's who they are. You can sense it. And then think of the opposite, somebody you don't know, also you don't know, or you don't know well, and you just immediately sense there's some kind of maneuvering going on, right? That's one of the topics we covered a couple weeks ago, is do you honor that? Or do you just repress your feelings and put yourself in, in this difficult or unpleasant, potentially abusive dynamic, right? So I think this is your opportunity. This is how I see it, to use to enhance your ability to sense a person's energy and not let your intellectual analysis be the only input you rely on. And it's important. I do want to say this. I think it's very important to get clear. People are sometimes consciously deceptive. They are deceiving you in that they are manipulative, and they know it. They are overbearing, dominating, and they know it. But they pretend they're not. So that's a conscious deception by somebody. And there are also plenty of people who are unconsciously very delusional that they're doing it. Either they honestly don't know they really may not know they're doing it. It may be, and they may not aspire to not do it. That's really how they like to be. Then they don't realize that it's a kind of a toxic manipulation, that they're doing, or control dynamic. So you want to be honest about it, and then it doesn't mean you can't ever associate with that person, but you want to associate with them with your energy in a different level, and don't join them in that dynamic.
Right.
Do you know what, when I say don't join them, do you understand what I mean by that?
Not,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe not.
Okay. Yeah, don't participate. So they're manipulating. Don't let yourself do the opposite, where you were talking about, then you want to kind of push, right?
Yeah.
They're pushing. Don't then let them pull. Don't let them pull the energy from you. They're pushing. In other words, you hold your energy. You don't let them constrict your energy field. And also, you don't push on them because you're wanting to prove yourself, and they're manipulating, and you're wanting them to stop. You have to let them be who they be, and then choose whether or not you want to stay present or remove your presence.
Okay.
And it may not be, I'm not saying it has to be forever remove your presence.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then, like, you can have somebody that let's say it could be somebody you work with, or somebody family, or somebody in the community. You're going to see them on a regular basis, right? And you can't move away from all of that, because you take your consciousness with you. So you want to just keep evolving your consciousness so that you have less of that in your energy field. And when it's in your energy field, it's much more manageable, because you're able to hold your energy, right? And so you can get to where when you're going to engage with that person, you just kind of check your energy before you do, and sort of like open to source, fill up. You've got the energy you need for whatever you need, and you don't need energy from them. You don't need it from them, and you don't need to give it to them. I mean, if somebody needs to go to the emergency room, that's different, but just normal communications. Yeah.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yep.
Okay, cool. Do we have anybody asking questions or commenting?
I don't see any questions or comments coming in yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a lot actually in that one question. We covered quite a bit, and I hope that was helpful. So I invite you to this coming week, everyone, to just practice the awareness of your energy so that you do not participate in either of those dynamics. You don't let yourself be triggered to behave as an energy vampire or the bully dynamic. You also don't allow yourself to be treated that way and just think you have to allow it, because you don't have to allow it. You can't change the other person, but you get to choose whether you stay present or remove your presence. You get to choose at what consciousness, at what energy frequency you will participate in relationships. So I invite you to commit to evolving your consciousness to be a person who is always participating at the level of sacred energy dynamics. Make that a new consciousness you hold. And then you will, and how do you do that? Choice by choice by choice. You have to change your consciousness so you're not constantly battling, swimming upstream. Shift your consciousness higher, and then choice by choice by choice, your energy field holds that. And you will take that with you everywhere you go. Not just physically, but because it's across the world at communicating with one another. All right, so I want to wrap up then, unless we have anything else, Spencer.
Nope.
Okay. So thank you for your presence today, and thank you for your presence during this series. I've heard some wonderful comments and feedback from people, even though it's taken a little, it's deeper. I know it's a very deep conversation. It's very important for conscious living. This is, if you can't bring conscious living principles into communication, you won't evolve into living consciously. We can't do, it's like riding two horses. I'm going to be in this group where we do it, but out in the world, I'm going to not do it. It really undermines you, and it's hard on you to not learn how to be the same person, bring that high consciousness into all you do. It's very hard on you. It wears on you emotionally, mentally, and physically. So that's why we're learning how to live our spiritual beliefs and be our divine self in all we do, in all facets of our life. So I applaud your courage and your conviction for learning this with us. We will be back next week. Let me switch quickly over to tell you what the topic will be. So next week on the 20th, we will be covering principle number 5, emotional triggers and projection of pain onto others. And the concept is, if you don't process your pain, you will inevitably project it onto others. And so then the 2 questions we will explore is, when you feel triggered, do you realize that it's you who feels triggered, and then process the unresolved emotional pain that was revealed? Second question, when you feel triggered, do you inquire to see if that person might not have done it intentionally, and honor yourself when you know they did? We touched on that today. It's very important. It doesn't mean you have to label that person as, horrible and never have anything to do with them. If they're really toxic, that might be appropriate. But a lot of times we just have to learn how to manage those who are not yet awakened on a spiritual path, or if they are, they don't yet have the skill set to live consciously. And we don't want to lower our intention and join in it. We want to hold the high consciousness in all we do. And number 1 commitment is sacred honor among all people, all creatures, all life, all sentient beings, Earth itself, and beyond. Okay. Thank you for joining us in that. We thank you for your comments, whether they're now or later. If you want to make comments or ask questions on the replay, I will come back and answer them. If you want to reach out privately, again, please do that. Go to our website. It'll show you how to do that. Thank you for sharing. That helps us very much, sharing the videos. We really do appreciate that, so people can watch the replays, either YouTube or Facebook. Join our community. We'd love you to participate with us. And we are expanding. In addition to the operations that we're doing now, our basic expenses for our weekly teachings, we're creating some video courses, and then we'll expand into some retreats in the near future. So any financial contribution you'd like to make to support that, we appreciate and we thank you for. It helps us continue what we're doing and also expand what we're doing. We are here for you. Reach out to us to let us know a topic of conscious living you might want some support with. We might then choose that for a new series in the coming months. So we will be back next week. We look forward to seeing you practice sacred dynamics. Start with you, of course, always with you. And know that you are divinely loved and supported in every way, so that you can be guided how to feel safe and secure to be out in the world, expressing the light that is you and being the love that is you, the unique expression of the divine that is you. We'll see you next week.